Bright QT. Every student matters.
Hello everyone. So let's start chapter number 4, and the chapter's name is Trade and Globalization. Now students, let's have a brief introduction of this chapter, that is Trade and Globalization. In this chapter students, we are going to talk about the changes that led to globalization in the world, right? So here we are going to talk about different centuries. In brief, we are going to talk about the pre-modern world. As in, how was the pre-modern world? Was the concept of globalization there in the pre-modern world? And what is this globalization? What was its impact? What were the main features? What was 19th century like? We are going to understand all these concepts here, student, in this chapter. So here our first topic is pre-modern world. Now when we talk about globalization, what thought comes in your mind? So there are a lot of things that you can think about while talking about globalization. So in simple terms, we can say that coming together of people, movement of people from one place to another, and all the factors like social, economic, political, technology, all these factors, they are involved in globalization, right? So this is the exchange of culture between different communities when different communities are coming together, right? Living at a place. So through different examples, students, we are going to understand the whole concept of trade that was happening all around the world and the concept of globalization. But before moving towards 19th century, let us understand what was the pre-modern world like. As in, we are going to talk about the ancient and medieval period. How was the trade then, and also was there any idea of or any thought of globalization that existed during this period? Let's try to understand that. So here, since ancient times, humans have moved from one place to another for knowledge, opportunity, spiritual fulfillment, or to escape persecution. Now here students, now going back to your ancient and medieval history, you have learned a lot of topics there, right? You have learned about various civilizations. Now, what are we seeing in these civilizations or different zones, time zones that we are talking about? Be it before the birth of Christ or after the death, like before when we are talking about the BC period or before we are talking about the AD period, right? So here we have to understand that since ancient times, people living in different regions have been traveling from one place to another and for different purposes, be it for knowledge or opportunities, spiritual fulfillment, or to escape the persecution of any particular religious group, right? Fight in the name of religion, that is the persecution here. Now here look at this map. Let us try to understand through this map here. Now this is the map of different civilizations that existed at one point of time. So the Mesopotamian, then the Egyptian, then Chinese, and then the Indus Valley civilization. Most important for us because it existed in our country only, right? Near river Indus. So these civilizations, it shows that trade existed during this period. Now, have you heard about the Silk trade, students? The Silk Route? Definitely, it existed in the ancient period only, right? So, it showed that through this route, people traveled from one place to another. It led to cultural exchange, correct? Also, when we are talking about the civilizations, yes, we have learned that in these civilizations, trade was taking place of different communities, of different commodities, right? So people from one region, let's say from Indus Valley, are moving to the Egyptian civilization area or the Mesopotamian area, right? And they are taking their culture, their things that belong to this particular civilization to another place. So somewhere it was leading to globalization. But the term globalization is being used today. It was not used in the ancient period, right? So yes, as early as 3000 BC, an active coastal trade that linked the Indus Valley civilizations with present-day West Asia, as you can see in the map here. Now we are talking about the term globalization. Like I told you, we are going to discuss this globalization in greater detail. But here, let's have a brief idea of what this term means. So, connection of different parts of the world that led to the expansion of international cultural, economic and political activities. Yes, we can say that it was happening in the ancient period as well. When people were moving from one place to another, they were interconnecting, right? And political, cultural, social changes were also taking place at the same time. Definitely it is related to the term globalization. We can also say that it is the movement of goods and peoples in different countries, correct? And today we define globalization like this. It is a result of advances in transport, communication and information technology that led to political, economic and cultural convergence. Definitely students, when we are talking about globalization, many factors are involved. So here we see that with the advancement in technology that is related to transport, communication and so on. So it has somewhere led to globalization, coming together of people from different parts of the country, right? It is also viewed as a century-long process tracking the expansion of human population and growth of civilization. Now, what do you understand by this? Yes, definitely we can say that it is a century-long process. Why? Because when we talk about the different civilizations, when we talk about the famous Silk Route, when we talk about the trading activities taking place in 16th, 17th century, in 19th century and so on, the conquest that you have learnt about in medieval period, in ancient period, all these factors are somewhere responsible for the expansion of human growth and also the growth of civilization in a whole. And today, we are capable of using this term that is globalization in order to denote all the changes happening worldwide. And this is what we are going to understand in this chapter through different examples. Now in pre-modern world students, early forms of globalization, it existed during the Roman Empire, Parthian Empire, Han Dynasty that is in China. This is Rome, northwestern frontier region, right, of India. So it was with the coming up of Silk Route that started in China. Now, are you aware of the term Silk Route, students? Yes, the route or network of trade that was initiated or started by China, right? So, Islamic Age is again a good example when Muslim traders they established a global economy that resulted in globalization. Now, when we are talking about the Islamic Age, it means we are talking about the medieval period when the Islamic leaders or the rulers they invaded in our country also and different regions of the world. So, they were also trying to create a global economy, right? By going on and taking over different places of the world. Global integration continued through 16th and 17th centuries with the Spanish and Portuguese traders expanding to different regions. Now, what are you understanding through these examples? We are seeing that not only today, it was a century-long process that was taking place, right? And also, when we are talking about the ancient period, the best example is the Silk Route, that is connecting people from different civilizations as well, and also different empires, right? So exchange of ideas is taking place, exchange of culture is taking place, religions are being spread through the Silk Route, correct? Likewise, when we are talking about the medieval period, Islamic age is a good example of showing this feature of globalization. When we are talking about the 16th and 17th centuries, we talk about the Spanish and Portuguese who were expanding their rule, the European powers, and through their conquest, how they were expanding their powers or their rule all over the world. Correct? So this is how they are connecting to all the regions and passing on their cultures, right? So this Silk Route, coming back to our main point here, the Silk Route, it existed since before the Christian era and thrived almost till the 15th century. So till 15th century, the Silk Route, it existed in the world. Now it points to the importance of westbound Chinese silk cargoes along this route. So we see that the expensive silk were being transported along this route, and also a lot of expensive or precious items were brought in China from the west region. Cultural and trade route that was central to cultural interactions through regions of Asian continent, as we will see in the map here. Christian missionaries and Muslim preachers, they traveled through this route. Now what does this signify? Exchange of culture in terms of religion. That missionaries and preachers of different religions, they are also traveling through this route, as in they are spreading their culture, correct? Best example of the exchange of religion here or the spread of religion is that Buddhism, that primarily originated in India, it now spread through the Silk Route to the regions of China and also Southeast Asia, correct? Now, since I told you that we are going to understand it through the map as well. So in this map, you can see this is the region of India, right? Silk Route. In this, we see the network of land route as well as the sea routes here, correct? It is now joining the various civilizations here, the Chinese civilization, Indus Valley, Mesopotamia, Egyptian, and so on, right? Different regions are connected through this route. What does this signify, students? When we are understanding it in the terms of globalization, so we see that people from these regions, they are also traveling from one place to another, trying to learn the culture of these civilizations, these empires that once existed, correct? And today we call this as globalization. So are you able to get this concept here, students? Are you able to connect the whole idea of the ancient period to this modern term that we are using today? Yes. Okay. Now, Silk Route, it disappeared with the end of Mongol power in the Central Asian region and was one of the factors that stimulated the Europeans to reach the prosperous Chinese empire through another route. So with the disappearance of Silk Route, what happened? The European powers, the Spanish, the Portuguese, and so on, they now looked for an alternative route in order to reach out the world. So several materials like Chinese pottery, spices that was transported from India, textiles, precious metals, that is silver and gold, they traveled from one region to another through these trade routes. Now coming to our exercise section here, in multiple choice questions, we have a question that says, globalization today mainly refers to? Now, this is a question that we are going to deal later as well. Here we have just read a bit about globalization. Let us try to attempt this question here, students. So, globalization today, it mainly refers to trade, migration of people in search of work, movement of capital, an economic system that emerged in the last 50 years, or cultural links among world societies. Now, when we are talking about globalization in today's era, the meaning or what does it refer to? What are you going to say? The correct answer here would be C. That in today's era, if we call globalization, we will refer it as an economic system that emerged in the last 50 years. But yes, when we are talking about globalization in different terms, so trade and migration of people, correct. Movement of capital, right. So here you are going to answer the most correct form. So in today's world, globalization, it mainly refers to an economic system that emerged in the last 50 years. Again, second question here is define globalization, right? Movement of people from one place to another, and interconnecting one place to another, interconnecting interconnection between them due to many factors, right? You have to talk about the factors, that is social, economic, political, technological, transport, whatever you can write. All these factors are responsible for globalization. So you have to talk about it in this question.